All right, so we're diving deep today. We're taking on your questions and really kind of peeling back the layers on all sorts of things, from personal experiences people are having right here in Poland,
Yeah.
to some pretty big, like, metaphysical concepts.
Yeah. The really interesting mix, kind of going from those direct things that people experience to those really big questions.
Yeah. And we're looking at a collection of inquiries that you all sent in during a live YouTube Q&A session. This was on the Calogero Grifasi Investigations to Polski channel.
A lot of interesting stuff in there.
Yeah, tons. So our mission today, to unpack those, to really get to those core insights, and hopefully spark some aha moments for you.
Love those.
Right. I love it when you're listening and I hear people go, oh, okay, that's the best.
Totally.
All right, let's jump in with our first piece. So if someone in Poland near the Vistula River, they described an experience. They said they were being followed by a large glowing sphere. And they mentioned a friend was with them too, and there's no question mark.
Interesting.
But it paints a picture, right?
Yeah. You can tell that this person and their friend, they encountered something that they're, struggling to understand. I mean, we all do. When we come across something that doesn't make sense, we want answers. And to really understand, like, the specifics of what they saw, the nature of the sphere, how it behaved, I mean, you really need to explore that on a personal level.
Right.
And a good way to do that is through something like a hypnotic regression session,
Yeah.
where you can kind of zoom in on that individual experience.
Okay, yeah.
If they want to pursue that kind of deep dive, they can reach out to info@calogerogrifasi.com.ar to, learn more about booking a session, really explore that.
Makes sense. Yeah. You need that personal touch, I guess, to really get into the specifics. All right, our next question brings in some terms I haven't heard before. Droy and Starny. The listener is asking for our thoughts on those, and they link them to this idea, this theory, that only 20% of humans have a soul, or like an essence, and everyone else is a clone. I don't know what Droy and Starny are, so maybe our listener, if they're still with us, could give us some more context in the chat. But that 20% soul theory, that's something we can talk about.
Absolutely. That's a big one. I think the important thing here is to understand that's just one perspective, someone's interpretation of things, based on their own understanding or experiences. We can't just accept it as a universal fact.
Right. It's an opinion, not a given.
Exactly. So when we talk about a soul, fundamentally, we're talking about the animating force, the energy that brings life to the body, allows us to experience this physical world. So based on that, anyone alive, anyone in a body has that principle, that animating energy.
That's the baseline then. So where's this 20% idea coming from?
Well, the person who put this theory forward, maybe they have a different idea of what a soul is, a very specific or unique definition, that could be focused on certain qualities, levels of consciousness, or certain abilities that they believe only a small number of people have. So when they say 20% have a soul, they might be saying that only those people have those very specific traits. But again, going back to the basic idea of what animates us, if you're here, you have that. You have a soul.
I see. Yeah, that clears up the distinction.
Oh.
So going back to the glowing sphere, the person who saw it had some follow-ups. They're wondering if it was physically behind them, like a physical object, and if seeing numbers in the sky is possible. A lot going on there.
Fascinating, right?
Yeah.
That they saw these additional details. But to really get to what that means, whether the sphere was physically there or those numbers appearing in the sky, again, we need that personal exploration,
Okay.
like a hypnotic regression session, to really understand their perception and their context. Anything else is just speculation.
Makes sense. You need the right tool for the job. Okay, this next one is a bit different. Someone asks about these letters and words. They wrote WWY, check, kakiko to o and esta parte.
Yeah. It looks like a collection of letters and some words. I'm not sure. I don't recognize any immediate question there. It's a puzzle.
Totally. But it does get me thinking about, like, where people are at when they ask these sorts of questions. Because it seems like there's this real desire to understand, to get into these less conventional topics.
Right.
And maybe this person is just starting out. They're new to this whole exploration, and they just don't have the language yet or the structure to articulate their questions more directly. It's like they're reaching out with what they have.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. There is a learning curve. When you start to look into these deeper aspects of reality, the people who've been in our courses or have had those past life regression sessions, they've built up that understanding. So they can ask more focused questions looking for specific information.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And someone like this, maybe, they're just at the very beginning of their journey.
So it's like a signpost on their path.
Exactly. And because of that, we're actually developing a special one-day course. specifically to equip people with the tools to ask effective questions in this field.
That's great.
It'll cover those core principles so they can get more meaningful answers and insights.
Wonderful.
One thing, though, this training is meant for people who have already done our first-level training because it builds on that initial knowledge.
Right, so it's the next step for those who've already started.
Exactly. We'll be launching it soon, and you can find more information at info@calagerogrifasi.com. So if you've done the first level and you want to really refine your ability to ask those really sharp questions, reach out.
Cool. So this next one is interesting. A listener, they specifically said that they are a man, asks if hair loss could be connected to past experiences.
Interesting. When it comes to hair loss, there could be all sorts of physical and medical reasons. Seeing a doctor could give them some insight into patterns of hair loss in men. But to link it specifically to past experiences, it's really difficult to say without going deep,
Right.
like through a hypnotic regression session. That's where you can really investigate any emotional or energetic patterns from their past that might be showing up physically now.
Okay, so to get that specific answer for them, they need to do that deeper dive. Okay, this next submission is really personal and touches on something very important. Someone describes being raised in a sect that instilled a lot of fear, and they're asking if people whose consciousness is being affected by mental illnesses have a chance to reincarnate without programming or interference. It's a heavy question.
Yeah, it is. And it brings up a really important point. When someone has mental health challenges, it often means their brain isn't working the way it normally does. And that definitely affects how their consciousness shows up, how they interact with their world. But here's the key. Just because it's expressing itself differently, because of how the brain is working, doesn't mean the consciousness itself is being destroyed.
Oh, okay.
It's still there, still active. But the brain is processing it differently, filtering it differently. And that's their current experience.
So the consciousness is still there, but the way it comes out is different. And what about that worry about reincarnation and programming?
People who experience mental health challenges, they can still reincarnate without any specific programming or interference linked to those conditions. However, their future experiences can be influenced by their beliefs and any karmic patterns they're carrying. For example, if they have a strong belief about a certain type of karma related to their struggles in a past life, similar themes might come up again in future lives. But the ability to reincarnate, that's not taken away by mental health experiences.
I see. That's good to know. All right. This question dives into the realm of agreements. Someone's asking, can we make and break pacts and contracts with beings? And is that part of being here, being in this reality?
Making contracts is totally part of being here. We do it all the time. Think of them as agreements, often unconscious, based on what we believe about reality, ourselves, how we interact with the world and other people. The empowering part is that we can break these contracts when we become aware of them and we consciously reclaim our personal power, our own energy. The key is understanding that these obligations, these limitations, they only hold power if we believe in them. When we recognize our own power, our sovereignty, we can step out of those agreements.
So awareness first, then we take back our agency.
Exactly.
So we have two questions that are very similar. They're both about what happens after this life. One person asks, what is life between lives? And the other asks, where are our loved ones who have passed?
Big questions that I think we all wonder about.
Yeah, definitely.
And because they're so similar, let's look at them together. What a person experiences on the other side, what we call life between lives, or where loved ones go. It all depends on their beliefs, their thoughts, their energetic vibrations.
So there's not a single answer for everyone.
Not at all. For instance, someone who has strong religious beliefs about heaven and hell,
Okay.
they might end up in a reality that reflects those beliefs. Their beliefs create the experience. And if someone believes in spirit guides or different forms of reincarnation, going back to Earth, other planets, even galaxies, that shapes their experience too.
Our inner world is powerful stuff.
Totally. In the end, the afterlife is a personal creation.
Yeah.
Shaped by beliefs and inner knowing. There's no one destination for everyone.
That's a big one to think about. So this next question brings in some skepticism. Someone's asking about people who say they're in constant contact with the source, getting direct guidance, writing books based on it, and they mention seeing inconsistencies, especially about descriptions of Earth's ascension. Why would someone present themselves like that? Like they're this clear channel?
That's a good question. And here's a principle. Whenever someone tries to tell you what to do, when there's this feeling that you need their guidance, it might mean they don't really know themselves, or they feel a lack of power. Those who truly understand their own nature, what we teach, they realize that constant reliance on outside sources isn't necessary.
So needing that external source could be a sign.
It might be. You can think of the human journey in two phases. The first is where there's more interference. You lack self-awareness and believe in outside constructs. The second is about going inward and connecting. Knowing yourself as a source of power, connecting consciously without needing someone else. When someone claims constant guidance, it often comes from that first phase, especially if they feel they need that external input.
That's a big difference between genuine exploration and dependence.
Huge. If you're truly curious, exploring yourself without needing validation, that's different.
Oh, okay. And now we have the listener who asked about Droy and Starny back with a clarification. They said it relates to the Tree of Life and ancient people, so we have a bit more context.
Yeah, thanks for that. The Tree of Life is a powerful symbol, found in a lot of spiritual and philosophical traditions.
Interesting.
And the link to ancient people gives it a historical background, so that's helpful.
All right, so a more personal question now. Someone's wondering why Calogero, the host of the YouTube channel where these questions came from, seems so serious when he talks about second-degree hypnosis.
While Calogero is usually super engaging and, often lighthearted, some topics just need a more serious approach. Second-degree hypnosis is probably one of them. It requires a certain level of attention and understanding.
Right, certain subjects just have that gravity to them. Okay, next one takes us into prophecy and maybe a bit of fear. Someone's asking if they should be afraid of the Antichrist coming next week.
Well, that question comes from a very specific belief system. The idea that the Antichrist is about to arrive. Even if such a being existed, they probably wouldn't announce their arrival with a date like next week. So fear based on that specific timeline isn't really necessary?
Probably not something to mark on the calendar. And we have a listener sharing a really powerful experience from their childhood. They were raised in a sect that predicted Armageddon, and they were living in constant fear.
Wow.
And they're asking how to free themselves from those ingrained programs. That sounds incredibly tough.
It does. And I feel for this listener, the important thing is to work on dismantling those fear-based programs and beliefs. Things like the world ending, especially when you're taught that as a child, can create so much anxiety and control.
Right.
The way out is to consciously question those beliefs, choose to move past them, and reconnect with your own inner sense of safety and truth.
That inner sense of safety and truth. All right. Someone's asking about hypnagogic visions they see before sleep and what they are. I think they might mean hypnagogic imagery.
Yeah, sounds like a misspelling. Those visuals, or sometimes sounds, that happen as you're falling asleep, those are totally normal. It's the beginning of the dream state.
Yeah.
Part of that shift in consciousness as you move from being awake to being asleep.
Okay, so it's a natural part of that shift. Now someone's asking about what happens after death, specifically in what they call the demur, or astral space. And they ask if, upon death, you can go straight to your source, avoiding manipulation in this space, and if that's enough to be free from dark entities attracted to your essence. A lot packed into that one.
A lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
It seems the listener has some strong beliefs about a specific place after death, what they call demur, or the astral plane. And they believe in a singular source.
Yeah.
They're worried about manipulation in this demur space. And if they can reach that source and be free from those entities, there's some tension there. Believing in a potentially manipulated space, but also wanting to reach this pure, unmanipulated source.
Yeah, like their beliefs might be clashing a bit.
Yeah, right. This is where the understanding we teach in our basic course comes in. It helps people develop their own awareness and power, so they don't need to keep looking for outside reassurance or fear being manipulated wherever they think they're going. As beings of power, which we all are, we create our reality through our beliefs. So fear-based beliefs, especially about manipulation after death, can actually attract the things they're trying to avoid. Exploring the origins of these beliefs in a regression session could be really helpful for this listener.
I see. Getting to the root of those beliefs. So this next one is about time travel. Someone asks if we can jump timelines and if that's connected to vibrations.
Yes, it's possible to shift between timelines.
Right.
And it definitely relates to vibration and synchronization. When your energy frequency matches the frequency of a certain timeline, you basically sync up with that reality. And that becomes your present.
So it's about matching frequencies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the how of it all, the mechanics, that's not always something the conscious mind needs to grasp completely. The subconscious already gets it. Focus on your intention, on what you want to achieve. If you intend to shift timelines and your energy aligns with that, the shift happens.
Intention is key. And we have a follow-up question. Someone's asking if it's possible to go back in time, but within the current timeline, like to live it differently, not jump to another one altogether.
That's actually what we do in regression hypnosis sessions.
Mm-hmm.
We guide someone back to a past event. We're revisiting a point within what they see as their current timeline.
Okay.
But here's the thing. If they make a different choice while back there, if their emotional response changes, that creates a new timeline, a branching point. So even though it feels like they're going back within their original timeline, they've actually shifted to a new one. The initial timeline is still there. They're just experiencing this new one.
So going back can lead to a new present.
Exactly.
All right, last question for today. Someone's asking how to avoid reincarnating on Earth again.
This goes back to understanding yourself as pure power and consciousness. When you're truly aware of that and you decide not to come back to Earth, respecting that intention is crucial. And it's good to look at any unresolved issues, attachments, or beliefs that might draw you back.
So conscious choice, knowing yourself and letting go of things that might be pulling you back.
Exactly. Now think about someone who believes there's nothing after death, like the scientist Margarita. She believed in nothingness. If she didn't change that belief, her experience after death might be nothingness, at least until her consciousness shifts or her beliefs change. Our understanding of ourselves and the choices we make, they shape our reality, including the possibility of future lives.
Wow, what a journey. We've covered so much. From personal stories to deep philosophical questions about reality, the soul, and what comes after.
It has been an amazing exploration, and you've gained some great insights, like how your beliefs shape your experiences, the difference between your consciousness and any physical limits, and the power that comes with self-awareness.
So as you keep exploring, remember that understanding your power and your beliefs is essential. In this life and whatever comes next, always question information from outside sources and cultivate your own inner knowing and wisdom.
And on that note, think about how your beliefs might be shaping your future experiences, even the ones you're not fully aware of. What beliefs do you want to explore more deeply or maybe redefine to better serve you?
That's a powerful thought to leave with. If any of these topics resonated with you and you're curious to learn more, check out resources like Hypnotic Regression or keep exploring consciousness on your own. The path of self-discovery never ends,
Absolutely.
and it's a truly rewarding adventure.
It is.